Architectural Builder's Supply is pleased to present you with this recording of the technical question that is listed in the title of this video.
This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.
So, so Best. The small format core was invented by Frank Best and patented in about 1921, maybe. I forget the exact year. And today's small format, and small format probably since the mid-20th century, has been, it was always A2. So there's A2, there's A3, and there's A4. All of the cores, all of the keys, all of the physical stuff, about the key itself and the core are all the same between them. And simply think of them as different systems, or system is not the right term, just a derivative. So when you combinate, or when you physically pin Best, there's rules that you follow. And there are a set of rules for A2, there's a set of rules for A3, and there's a set of rules for A4. It's all the same rules. What changes are the numerical variables in each of the systems. A2 is practically everything that we ever see, which means the magic number in A2 is 23. So your pin stack, your bottom pins, your master pins, your build up or control pins, and your driver or top pins, when you add those all up, you'll have a 9 and a 4 and a 7, and when you add all that up, it must equal 23.
Correct.
That defines the A2 system as a 10-step system in the sense that there is an increment between a 4 and a 5 cut, let's say. So that increment is fixed. When you go to A3, they took that increment and they squeezed it down smaller to fit more of it in there. And they sunsetted the A3 because they found that there was unintentional interchange. The increment was so small between a 4 and a 5, let's say, that they were getting a worn out 4 to open up those that were 5s. So it's a difference in the increment. The A4 is also a change in the increment value. So the amount of keys that theoretical potential keys in a system that you could create is based on that increment. And an A2 will give you X number potential theoretical keys. And A4 will give you a different value of X potential theoretical keys. So if you don't know what you have or what you're dealing with, A2 is really a pretty safe bet, but you can't assume that it's an A2. Now, the difference on the combinator, what's the difference? So when you punch the key, right, you're going to punch 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Okay, great. But let's say that you're going to punch keys that have in a proper system, change keys, control keys, master keys, whatever. Where the punch is physically notching the key blank is different on an A2 versus A3. A2 and A4. A3 as well, but that's sunsetted. No new systems are developed in A3. If you measure, let me say it this way: if you put a caliper from the root of the key blank to the bottom of the cut for let's say a 5 cut, it will give you the root depth in an A2. If you did that same exercise in A4, you put a 5 cut on an A4, it'll give you a different root depth. The machine, when you are setting the dial to control the depth of the cut, has to be built for the proper system. Otherwise, your punch or your cut will be in the wrong depth. Because a 5 depth in a A2 is different than an A4 because of that increment.
Yeah. So here's a quick question and quick story about how stupid I was with this then. So I helped my brother out, and he had one of these machines. I took a picture of it, and I was like, you know what? And I go on a lot of projects to help him. I was like, God, it'd be nice to have a key cutter combinator machine with me to cut some keys out there when I'm out there, and the store says, hey, I'd love to have 2 more of this and 1 more of that or whatever. And so I saw this on there, and I, pulled up the picture I had of his, and they looked so similar. I looked at the, the code numbers, like, oh, these look the same. So I bought a AD433 and it just showed up. I'm looking at it, and it only goes to 5, and I know his goes to 9.
You got an A4 system.
And so this does me no good whatsoever, does it?
Not at all. The only way that would do you good is if you recombinated the cores into an A4 system.
Well, yeah, that's not going to happen. We got 150 stores with about 70, 80 cores in each store.
Yeah. So someone either ordered an A4 or you were shipped an A4 by accident.
No, I mean, I ordered, this was off eBay. It was a used machine. And I thought, oh, great. What a great deal, for $700. I thought, what a great deal. And so it just showed up. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, wait a minute, this only has a dial that goes to 5. Yeah. Dial should go all the way up to 0, up to 9, whatever.
Yeah.
So, fuck. So I just wasted $700.
I wouldn't say that. You are likely aware of what a new combinator costs.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I would suggest you do is send me an email, and I can find out from Best what it would cost to convert that. It may, 2 options. It's worth it or it's not. But
good point.
I'll find out. It may require so many part changes that it's not worth it. But I don't know that. It might just be, and I've forgotten more about locksmithing than many people who aren't locksmiths have ever learned, right? So I have to, I don't remember the magic number in A4, so I'm just winging the long-winded explanation as to the difference.
Well, your explanation was good. I appreciate it. It cleared it up for me in my novice state that I'm in, so that worked. Yeah, I can send you an email. That'd be nice to have. I think I filled out my email when I sent in for the chat window. Did that not come across?
No, it's here. But if you'll, actually, I can do that. That is right. That is all here. I'm going to send you an email. It's just a paper trail of who I am, and I will find out. I've never done it. But I will find out because it's at least worth knowing. My guess is that it's, if the machine you have is in tremendous shape, then great. And it would be kind of cool to have the ability to ever do A4 because your increment is greater between the cuts. So you have thicker pins, master pins, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a more stable system down the road. And if you tossed rotating constant...
Well, 4 is what would I need.
Huh?
Yeah, the 4 is what I need. That's what my brother has, is the 4. So that's what I need, and I got the 2. So I need to convert from it. On the 4?
Do this. The email that I've sent you, snap a few photographs of that thing, especially of a serial number, because that will be very important for me to be able to provide the manufacturer.
Okay.
Whether it be green or red, a photo's worth 1,000 words, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see an email come from you yet.
Oh, it'll take 5 minutes or so.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, I will do that and send it back to you. And thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you did get a steal on that. If it's in really great shape, I think you got a steal on it. And I don't know, what's a new combinator cost nowadays? Is it?
Yeah, they run about $5,600.
Holy shit! Are they
I saw one that was used. It looked like a 4. It was used on eBay. I saw that one, and that was $2,500. So I saw this one for, the guy was asking like $1,100 or something, and I offered him $700, and he took it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. So I'm looking at the serial number 1823.
Yeah, I'll have to forward that to the factory. So snap some photos of it, or at least send me the eBay link, and I'll look at those photos, whatever. But I want to know the serial number. I would prefer your high resolution photos.
Yeah.
And I'll find out the story. Yeah, I'm thinking if you do enough of this work, and meaning you do enough best, genuine best, it might be worth investing a little money into it, because the Combinator is the proper way to originate keys in the best system. It's the die cutter that's in it. It's the die that's in it, and it's the shape of that. You get the proper cut in the blank, not like running something on your rotary, your semi-automatic duplicator. Those are cut keys doing that, of course. But punching for best on a Combinator, that guarantees you.
And that's what we need, because when we send keys out to the store, we test them, but we'll send keys out to a store. We need to know that they're going to work when they get there.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Well, thank you, Richard. I'll respond to your email. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Architectural Builders Supply hopes you have enjoyed this program. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. As you heard in the prior conversation, a client, what he did is he found on an online website, eBay, he found a AD433 Combinator, and he was really happy to find it. As you heard, it's a tremendous value. Turns out it's an A4 system, which is a single-step system in BEST, where almost everything that you'll encounter is definitely A2, which is a 10-depth system, and it has everything to do with the increments. And during the phone conversation, I was able to let the client know what the difference was between the A2 and the A4, and then the A3 as well, using general terms. But let me point you to the actual information so that you can dive in should you need a more forensic approach or a deeper level of understanding of what the actual difference is. And when I see this information, it will knock off the cobwebs in my head. Well, A2 is almost everything that you'll end up bumping into. A3 was created many years ago, if not a few decades ago, to obtain an obscene quantity of hundreds of thousands of key blanks. And the way that you can determine the quantity of theoretical key blanks is take how many depths are in the system. Bear with me one moment. Just bear with me. I want to be sure of what I'm about to say. Yeah. So basically, the amount of theoretical keys that you can generate is the amount of chambers, the amount of cuts in a chamber multiplied by the quantity of pins, except exponentially multiplied. So if you have a 10-depth system, you can achieve a total of 5 cuts in a 10-depth system, assuming you have to be 2 cuts away. Okay, that's the increment between a 4-cut and a 5-cut. There are systems where you can't be 1 cut away, you have to be 2 cuts away. If you take one of those 5 cuts out as a master or a TMK, you'll be left with 4 possible cuts within the 10-depth system that will allow you to create change keys. If you have a 5-pin system, it's 4 to the 5th power, that's 1024. If you have a 6-pin system, that's 4 to the 6th power, that's 4096. If you have a 7-pin system, it's 4 to the 7th power. But in the A3 system, it wasn't 4. It was a much larger number because they took the minimum increment between the cuts and they got it down below the acceptable threshold of 23 thousandths. I don't recall what it actually was. It doesn't matter. But as I had said in the phone conversation, a worn-out 4-cut could start to act as a 5-cut. That spacing was so tight together in new systems that with wear and tear on the key blanks, keys would operate cylinders that they were not intended to operate. There are many installations that still use A3, and it works, but when parts start to wear, things aren't going to work really well because your cuts are too worn and the keys are jamming in the cylinder. So you've got a 10-step, a 10-depth system, then you've got a 2-step system like in an A2, a 1-step system that you'll have in an A4. And I guess what I'm driving at is the universe of small format is such a deep universe worth diving into. If you're a locksmith, you're probably familiar with how to combinate small format and how to work the formula to create small format biddings so that you can actually physically combinate the cylinders, load pins in the core. So let's switch to the screen view, and I'm just going to show you where you can find all the backup information that I've referred to so that you can confidently move forward and work in any environment, A2, A3, or A4. The bottom line is if you can work in A2, you can work in A4. The pin kit is different, but the tools, the key blanks, the cores, they're all the same. You just have to hit that magic number. In A2, it's 23. I think in A4, it's maybe 16. I just don't remember, so don't quote me. But at the end of the day, what do you care if if a 4-pin is X length when you put your caliper on it, and your magic number is about 16? Does it really matter if it's 16 or 23? It doesn't matter. So you can combinate in A4. And when I had said earlier that all your tools are the same, your springs are the same. Your capping block is the same. Your combinator's not the same, and that's the whole nature of this. So let's switch to the screen view and let me show you where the additional information is.
If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it.
Okay, so here we are at the website. Anywhere in my website, you can just type in best and find any item from best. Or currently, the word manufacturers, you can also click on that, and you can just do a find function on your keyboard for best, and you'll find best. When you click on that, the manufacturer's page is going to load. And when it loads, it's going to look, at least it does now, it's going to look like this. So this page will allow you to view all of the best items we sell, but lots of encyclopedic references, and it's on this page where we indeed keep those. So A2 and A4 keys system training tip-off, that is an important manual. There's also the quick reference to combinating best cores. Let's look at this first. This is underneath the lid of a typical best kit. And this actually teaches you everything you do need to know to combinate best. It's not straightforward as to how they go about achieving this math that's here, meaning in this first chamber, because number 1 is near the tip of the key, right? This is chamber 1 in small format. This is chamber 6 in small format, or 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, chamber 6. So you've got a 5 bottom pin and a 4 master. Well, that tells you that you have either a 5 cut change key or a 9 cut change key, and you've got another key operating at the operating shear line that is a 9. You'll have a 5 cut on a key and a 9 cut on a key. 5 plus 4 is 9. But you get to the point where you're trying to figure out, well, what's the deal with that control cut? Why is that control? It's not a cut, it's a pin. These are pins. Why are we dropping an 8 control pin? Well, the rule is you take your control key and you add 10 to it, and then you subtract your pin stack. So let's take a look. What we have is the need at this point to know what a rule is. A rule in A2, there's 2 rules in A2, and I was saying 16 before on A4, it's really 14. There are 2 things you have to know. 23 is a stack height, and 10 is an important number. you add 10 to the control cut, and then subtract your pin stack total of 9 to achieve the 8 control. So that number being 10, two numbers to know, 23 and 10 when you're dealing with A2. 23 we talked about, that's the stack height. That means whatever quantity of pins that you have in there, their numerical value must equal 23. 10 is another number. Now, 10 has everything to do with determining what your control pin is. Here's the rule. You take your control cut, you add 10 to it, then you subtract your pin stack of your bottom and master pin, or pins. So we know that we have 8 here, because it's in this chart. If you, let's take a look here. Let's see how we can explain this. And what you could do to determine this is you could take 9 plus 8, that's 17, and subtract 10, and that will give you 7. So 7, keep 7 in your head. Now here's how you actually do it. To determine what pin you drop, you take the control key and you add 10 to it. Well, if your control cut was 5 and you added 10 to it, that's 15. 15 minus your sum of all of your bottom and master pins would be 6. Well, that's no good because we have an 8 here. If your control cut is 7 and you added 10 to it, that's 17. 17 minus 9 is 8. So doing the math of adding this and this together and subtracting 10 will tell you your control cut. But the way you do it, you already know your control cut because at this stage you've already cut the keys. We know that it's 7. 7 plus 10 is 17 minus 9 is 8. So you've got 9 and 8 is 17. 23 minus 17 is 6. 23. If you're dealing with an A4 system, it's not 23 anymore. It's 14. And I think the add for A4 is 6 to the control cut. But don't quote me, because I'm doing it from foggy memory. But let's take a look at that A2 and A4 key systems training manual. You'll want, I've read this. There's 124 pages. Most of it is bidding charts. Okay, most of this is giant font that you're not really going to have to think to yourself, oh my gosh, it's 124 pages. No, you go through this in 45 minutes. So as I scroll through, lots of good information, but the information that absolutely applies, yeah, I was close. No, I was right on. So on page 8, the 18th page of this PDF, they give you an A2 overview, an A4 overview, and an A3 overview. Okay. And this information here is exactly the difference between those two systems. Okay. Magic number is 23 in an A2. Just looking at A2. 23, and then you add 10 to the control cut. A4, the magic number is 14, and you add 6 to the control cut. All of the other math, all of the other logic is identical. You're just manipulating those numbers. The A3 system is also here. So you can see that you're going to achieve 16,384 potential theoretical codes in a 7-pin system. 4 to the 7th power. 4 to the 6th power for a 6-pin. You can see that goes up drastically when you deal in an A4 system, because you get, in effect, one more chamber that you can work with. I'm sorry. you get one more step within each chamber that you can work with. It goes up really high. A2 is most of everything that you're going to end up seeing. And there's other really helpful information that you can see here as well when we take a look at it. It gives you the increment, 0125 increment. So you're not going to have a 4 and 5 cut together. It'll be doubled basically as they stay here because it's a double step or a two-step system. 0.023 is considered by the industry to be the threshold. Anything below that is not going to work reliably like if you are using a number 1 master pin. But if we look at the A3, that's where they got into trouble, 0.018, because it was the pin cuts are too close to each other, as I've been saying. You'll note 0.25 is what we're dealing with. That's a minimum between cuts. They squeeze more because they've taken 0.25 and they turned it into 0.21. And now you have a total of 6 cuts per chamber, 0 through 5. 0 is a cut. Over here, it's a 10 depth system, as I said earlier, 0 through 9. There's 10 values in there. 0 is 1, 1 is 2, 9 is 10. But this gives you all of the information. And had I had this at hand, I probably would have given the client a more thorough, accurate answer to what's the difference between A2 and A4. But I don't think it was necessary to be able to. I don't think it was necessary to have gone into that sort of depth in terms of an explanation. But here it is. Great manual. That's here. You're playing with best. Really, everything that you need to know to combinate best, I just explained, and it's all off of this little chart that's on the underside of the lid of the pinning kit. If there's any questions on this information, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.
If you've made it this far into this video, you must be determined to see it through to the end, and we appreciate your hanging in there with us and watching this entire video. It means a lot. It takes a lot of work to create these videos in the sense that it's time taken away from doing other things. However, the advantage for me personally of creating these videos is the fact that it does allow myself to either learn about something new, to reacquaint myself with something, or to reinforce what I believe that I already know. Any comments that you might leave down below would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, some additional information has come in that is important to know. So the client bought, as you heard, the AD433, quite frankly, in error, not realizing that it was a single-step system, as we've discussed, rather than a two-step system. I reached out to the manufacturer and asked them, because I told the client that I would, find out about the conversion process. And I was able to get a answer that will most absolutely be reasonably agreeable for the client. And the answer is, you can replace the part on this. So let's take the depth part, the depth dial component. Let's take a deeper dive into these combinators. Now, regardless of how you find a combinator in our site, how you get there, there's going to be, the client now has the -4, we know that, because of the single step dial, steps 0 through 6, I imagine. So what we can do is we can look at some supporting documentation, instructions, a cut sheet. Cut sheet's kind of fun because it will show you just this item from the catalog. The product brochure is fun because it will show you all of the service equipment used for combinating best cores. And the 433 is right here. Pinning kit, and I had mentioned earlier, that's underneath the lid, that image that I had showed you. It is. Other parts are here. That's called a capping press, key decoder, ejecting block, or capping block they call it, ejecting pin, capping pin, tweezers, whatnot. Now, once you graduate from after becoming familiar with the product brochure and the cut sheet and the instructions, you go to the service manual. This is the end-all to be-all, so to speak. Okay, so what we have here is the service manual. And mentioned in the conversation was me asking the manufacturer if it was possible, and it turns out it is. So parts. So first of all, it's important to know what machine you're dealing with. Is it a left hand or is it a right hand? And what keyway are you cutting? Because that really matters. Here is an image from the client, which you've already seen. Okay, that tells me this is a right-hand machine. Okay, the handle's on the right. Here's another image. Handle's on the right. Okay, depths 0 through 5, I would imagine, is what this is. So let's get rid of those images. So we know we're dealing with a right-hand machine. Well, it ain't this machine, so don't look at any parts for this. And we know here we have a right-hand machine. Okay, well, that's good. That's getting us closer. Interesting. That's all there is to it. There's left-hand and right-hand machines. Makes sense. There's only two hands. But which machine you use is also related to what keys you are cutting. So depending on the platform that you're cutting, you'll need a left-hand machine. Or depending on the platform you're cutting, you'll need a right-hand machine. The bottom line is, for a left-hand machine, it would only take a premium key carriage, and I'm absolutely, based on the conversation, making a very strong assumption that this client is cutting regular garden variety best key blanks. That would be a standard right-hand machine. Now, the question that I posed to the factory was, I need to convert, is it possible to convert an A4 to an A2 machine, meaning an AD433-4 to an AD433-2? And I asked the question directly, is it potentially as simple as replacing the depth assembly? And I asked, is it potentially as easy as just replacing the A4 depth assembly, the C70324, with the C70322, part number 1, right here. And the reason I asked that is because there's only one punch and die assembly. And I'm making an assumption we're cutting standard caliber blanks, not the premium, that are thicker. There's only one operating lever assembly. So making sure that the client is cutting standard and that the A4 machine he has a standard key carriage and not the premium key carriage, which I'm going to make sure before we actually take an order. All that needs to be done is replacing part number 1, the depth selector. In this service manual, it will go over service and maintenance. Convert your combinator between A2, A3, and A4 on page 3-7.
Charge $30 more than this. Yeah.
And this is where it details. And in fact, I would have looked in the service manual first, except that I've never encountered this in the past. So I wasn't thinking that it was... I was hopeful it would be this easy, but I wasn't expecting it to be. So in the service manual is how one would go about doing this. Removing the depth selector, reinstalling the depth selector. And it's literally 2 pages on how to do this. The punch and die assembly is on the next page. You're not replacing this, assuming that he's doing standard keys. So however you get to find the AD433 in the site, you're going to find the service manual right here. And that document is what you're going to refer to. Now, there's also a link below this video to this link here called More from Best. And this is the manufacturer's page in our website. And when you click on that, you're going to you'll load up the manufacturer's page. And on this page, we've got the D-Series service equipment catalog, and I don't see the service manual for the service equipment, but I will have it added here. So by the time you're seeing this video, you'll be able to see the link to the service manual here as well. Hopefully this video has been of some help to someone who's gotten a really great deal on eBay, but lo and behold, it's not the right item. Anyway, any questions on this or any other best material, please feel free to reach out to us. My name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. Thank you.
Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.